Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and peace be upon you. My name is Sheila Hani, and together we Mr. Johannes Tarigan, Mrs. Nur Shamsi, and Miss Mutiyah Harahap as author. Today I'm going to make a presentation about the traditional house in North Sumatra against the earthquake. Case study Karo and Toba. For introduction, Indonesia is one of the countries that are susceptible to earthquakes. The traditional houses in Indonesia are generally able to resist the earthquake, non-engineered structural system that was handed down from ancient traditions. The knowledge of building technology that was perfected by trial and error by the ancestors of the residents. The traditional house is made of wood or bamboo tend to survive. The house type has the flexibility against earthquake vibrations. It is also applied to the traditional houses around Toba Lake in North Sumatra, Indonesia. Those are houses of Karo ethnic and Toba ethnic. The place is known as a region that is susceptible to earthquakes because it is located near Sibayak Mount and Sinabung Mount, which is an active status. From the earthquake occurred, it was recorded that there were 7 damaged houses in the Karo Regency, but the traditional houses are still steady until now. This is location. This is the location of the North Lake Toba in North Sumatra Island. From the map below, we can see that Toba Lake is located around the center of Sumatra Island. The right picture, we can see the location of Lingga village and Sukajulu village, which are the Karo ethnics, and then the Silalahi village and Sialagan village are for the Toba ethnics. Okay, let's proceed to the research method. In this paper, we did some methods. First, we did the interviews and measurement. Continue with the modeling of the structure of the traditional house. And after that, we continue with analyzed it by sub 2000. For the result, we compared with and checked to the permit of each parameter and research previously. From the data below, these are the sub 2000 data. There is design data, load analysis, and the parameter of the response spectrum design. Let's proceed to the next. This is the result and discussions. There are 2 pictures of traditional house. In the left, that is a picture of the Toba traditional house in the Silalahi village, and the right is the Karo traditional house in the Lingga village. Both of the house look equal, but actually they are very different. Okay. In this paper, we focus on the traditional house of the Karo ethnic because the research for the Toba ethnic has been presented previously. So this is the Karo traditional house. We can see here the element of the structure are first the roofs, and then you can see the column, and then we can see the foundation and also the condition of the stone pedestal. On the right, we can see the perspective of cross-section and longitudinal section. And below, we can see the structural frame models that will be analyzed by the SAP 2000 software. This is the result from the analysis. First, the horizontal irregularity. The location of the center of mass and stiffness in Karo traditional house in Lingga village is shown in table aside. The location between the center of mass and the center of stiffness is the same coordinates. It means that there is no eccentricity and no torsion that occurs in the structure, so the structure is symmetrical. The second table is the analysis result in the horizontal irregularity of Karo traditional house. Furthermore, there was no discontinuity, neither the diaphragma nor the lateral force trajectory in the structure. The columns and the walls are positioned continuously, and the vertical lateral force resisting element is parallel to the orthogonal axis of the earthquake force bearing system, so that there is no horizontal irregularity in the structure of Karo traditional house. For the next is a vertical irregularity. The table for the vertical irregularity is shown below. The analysis result in the vertical irregularity of Karo traditional house. Because the stiffness of the first floor is greater than the second floor, the structure is regularity building in the level lateral load and the over level lateral load category. And the stiffness of each floor in the x direction is greater than 70% and 60% than the stiffness of the second floor, so there is no stiffness irregularity. For the structural period T, the table aside shows that the value of the period is smaller than the permit period of the structures, so that the house is safe. Aside from that, the period of in Karo is smaller than the period in Toba, but the natural frequency in Toba is smaller than the natural frequency in Karo. The base shear force nominal V. The result of the dynamic shear force analysis must not be less than 85% of the static shear force obtained. The base shear force of the structure is analyzed by SAP 2000, and it shows that the traditional houses structures in Karo and Toba villages are safe. For the friction force F, the shear force F will be held by the static friction between rocks and wooden poles. The static friction depends on the normal force and the static coefficient of friction. The friction force of the structures is analyzed. Table above shows that the traditional houses in Karo and Toba do not experience a movement because the value of the maximum static shear force is smaller than the static friction force. The story drift delta. The story drift are the intersection between floors, the difference of the elastic relationship between one floor and the floor nearby. The permit story drift delta A is determined in Hutabalian 2018 based on the type of structure. These traditional houses in Karo and Toba are categorized as simple structures with two-story structures. Let's proceed to the last page. Conclusion. The structural concept of both Karo and Toba traditional houses is relatively the same, only the type of roof is different. And then both the traditional houses have symmetrical structures. And then there is no horizontal irregularity, but the vertical irregularity exists. The earthquake the earthquake performance show that the structure of traditional houses are safe in terms of the period, the base shear force, the friction force, and the story drift. Okay, this is end of the presentation. Thank you very much for giving attention of my presentation. And I would like to say have a good day.